Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. I'm not happy. I got no... Well, the only news I've got on my mum is my sister sent me a text last night. I was actually in bed. Mind you, I do go to bed early. To say that the hospital has said they're quite worried about her kidneys. So it looks like the urine infection may be more than they thought. And I've had no more news today yet. So I'm still waiting on my sister to get in touch, really. So that's that. But me, you know, I don't get ill. I don't have things wrong with me. That's how I've always been. Well, as you get older, sometimes you have to accept that a few things might start going wrong. And what I thought was weight gain over the Christmas period and being locked in, you know, they always said that COVID-19 is the extra pounds you put on because you've been shut indoors. But I recently decided that I would change my diet quite dramatically. So I cut out things like processed meats, stuff like pork pies, sausage rolls, pasties, ham, bacon, all the sort of processed type foods that, you know, you're always warned against them. I don't eat fatty foods, quite honestly. I mean, most of the food I eat, things like my chilli, you know, when I do a chilli, it's 5% fat, lean, minced beef. You know, there's very little fat in that, and it's beans, all really good for you, you know, especially the black beans that go in it. You know, so there's that. I mean, if I make a curry, the curry will have lots of vegetables in it and chicken breast, lean white meat. So the amount of fat in my diet was virtually negligible. I eat some nuts, yeah, and apparently whole grains are good for you, so we'll get a nice fibres good for you, all that sort of stuff. So got a nice breakfast cereal that's whole grains, all this sort of stuff. And basically I'm not fat, but I am. And I've started to worry about things changing and going a bit wrong, like needing to go to the loo more often and being a bit gassy. And my son's just been round, and as part of his lifestyle training that he does is nutrition. He's quite a serious scientific nutritionist type person, and he's had to be, because he's had a lot of problems. He used to get eczema so bad that his skin was falling off, you know, and it all turned out to be diet and stress related, and the combination of the two. So I said to him, I've just been round to see Julie and Ian, that's my sister and brother-in-law, and my sister looked at him and said, will you do your shirt up? We don't want to look at your fat. And he grabbed hold of his stomach and wobbled it. Well, mine was a similar size to his, but mine don't wobble. It's solid. And it's not supposed to be that shape. It's hard. So I discussed with my son, and he said, what things did you change specifically in your diet? I said, well, there's a lot more vegetables, so forget that. Yeah, forget that, that'll be fine. I got breakfast cereal. Yeah, okay. And the main change, I suppose, is I've started making my own bread. Show me the flour. I see, strong white flour. Very strong wholemeal flour. Breakfast cereals, whole grains. One of the flour types you use has whole grains in it as well as being flour, which is wheat based. He said, I would seriously think that you have sensitivity to gluten that you've always lived with and got away with because you didn't have much gluten in your diet, and now you have, and that's the change, and that will make your stomach bloat. Yeah, so I think I'm going to have to change my diet again. So I went to my bread maker book and looked through the recipes, and there's gluten-free bread. I can make gluten-free bread. So the first initial change, because basically I've changed my diet such that I should not be overweight. I know I don't do a lot of exercise, but I shouldn't be overweight. And Tony looked at me, he said, you're not overweight. Your legs are the right size, your arms are the right size. There is no fat on you but you've got a bulging stomach. So there's something wrong. So you need to sort out what's wrong. How often do you go to the loo? Frequently. Right, okay. So he said, well, the first thing to do, because it'll be a difficult change at first until you get used to it, but get rid of the gluten and the whole grains, the wheat-based type stuff. I said, oh, don't say I'm going to have to get rid of milk and butter. And no, don't worry about dairy yet. Leave that as it is. I have milk in my coffee, that's it. And I don't have cakes, I don't have biscuits. You know, that's a real rare occasion. That doesn't happen much. So I don't have lots of sweet things and cakey type biscuit things that would also have wheat in them. So the thing I need to change is my homemade bread, and change that into that horrible rock solid gluten-free type bread. But bearing in mind I very rarely eat it as bread, I tend to eat it as toast. Providing it still makes sort of reasonable toast, that's not a major big deal. And get rid of the breakfast cereal and see how that goes. But yeah, last time Hannah was down, I said to her, because she's always worried about her weight, being a girl, you know, they do tend to worry more than blokes do. Blokes grab hold of their big fat belly and go, it's healthy living. It's all bought and paid for, all silly expressions like that. But I said to her, I'm having real trouble shifting this weight. It just will not go. And she said, well, perhaps you're one of those people that reducing the calories and everything is not going to do it. And you are going to have to do some exercise at the same time and combine the two. But talking to Tony, what he says makes far more sense, is the fact that I'm now eating a lot more wheat-based product than I ever have done. So I'm going to give it a go. I don't know what you lot think. You probably just eat what you flipping like, don't you? But I don't want this, you know, I mean, my trousers don't come up to my waist anymore because my waist has dropped 3 or 4 inches. You know, it's becoming uncomfortable. I've got some shirts that I can't do up anymore. The sleeves still fit, the shoulders still fit, but, you know, there's two or three buttons down the front that won't do up anymore. So I think we're going to try it and give it a try and see what happens, because it's not too much of a big deal. So I'm going to go online now. I've got a home shop arriving next Thursday or Friday, and I'll just get some, providing the supermarket I use does it. I need to get some gluten-free flour, some gluten-free yeast, and I need to get some, strangely enough, some white wine vinegar. And Tony said, don't worry about that sounding odd going into bread. It's because you're going to be using a different type of scientific principle to make your bread. Like I need 2 beaten eggs to go in this loaf. So, you know, it's a totally different recipe. But I'm going to give it a go and see what happens, because I'm getting fed up with my shirts being too tight and my trousers being permanently at half mast because I can't get them up over this belly. And like I said, it's hard. It's not wobbly, floppy fat like a lot of people's bulges. So it's, you know, he said it's bloating. And he said the trouble is, when you get bloating in your stomach, all those little fingers where the food goes in between and gets absorbed and processed become fat fingers. There's not so much room for the food to go into the gaps and get processed properly, which means instead of you processing your food properly, it's going through and coming out the other end. So excuse my bluntness, but anyway, so change of diet yet again, and we'll give it a go. I still want to use the bread maker, so I will still have a go at making my gluten-free bread. If it doesn't work out too well, then Tony said, just try the different makes that you can get in your local supermarket until you find one that you can live with, and then stick with that, because you will find one that will be okay, that you can get on with. So we'll go from there. All good fun, isn't it? And I don't think this is anything to do with getting old, although it could be, I suppose. But you know, as soon as he said, well, what have you changed in your diet? Let's have a look through the sort of things you eat. And I went through, you know, oh, that's good, yeah, that's good, that's healthy, good, lots of vegetables, yeah, like all that. And I said, what about potatoes? They're a bit starchy. He said, no, potatoes and rice are your staple stodge. Don't worry about them, they'll be fine. Which is good. It'd be difficult to substitute rice for anything else, wouldn't it? So, yet another diet change. And we'll see how it goes. I'm treating it like a bit of fun, like a bit of an experiment. I'm annoyed that I have to, but, you know, so be it. Maybe I've always been a little sensitive to gluten type products, but I've had so little in my diet, I've got away with it. And maybe with the, you know, with the bread maker, and, you know, it's like Tony said, because I said, you know, I only have a bit of toast for breakfast. There's not exactly a lot of calories in that, is there? And I said, and sometimes I only have a bit of toast for lunch. He said, so there you go. 2 of your 3 meals are very high in gluten, especially as you're using strong flour. So there's your major change in your diet straight away. The type of flour you're using for your homemade bread is dramatically stronger than your shop-bought stuff you used to have. So we'll give it a go. It's all good fun, isn't it? And what's this got to do with orchids? Absolutely nothing. But if I'm not healthy and not well, I don't get to look after the orchids, do I? Did I twist that round? Are you gonna buy that? So it is to do with orchids. I've just made something up. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.